the people pick. So Sarah, do you want to run through who got what percentage-wise of the vote?
Yes. So in third place, with people agreeing with you, Mark, was St Helens on 14%. Second place was Leeds with 29%, and Castleford got 46% of the vote.
There you go. Cast are the favourites. I'm sure Fatboy Rob will be telling us that Cast will piss the league, and we'll all have to suffer through all of that one way or another. But that is.
I mean, to be fair, he'd tell it us anyway, so there's no difference if they actually do it.
Good point. Right, that is the headline predictions out the way. We're now going to go team by team, and we'll try and stick to a 5-minute-ish time frame on each one, but we're not going to do that, let's face it, there's no chance. But there we go.
So we move into the team-by-team section of this preview show, and we start with the first alphabetically. Nothing to read into this yet, anyway. We start with the Castleford Tigers, my other team, allegedly. We've had quite a few fan views in on this one, so we'll start with Anita Hargraves, who says, very optimistically, 2 out of 3 trophies this season.
Cameron Burgess expects to see free-flowing rugby from the Tigers.
Cast Tigers Stats says, we'll struggle in the cold months, then excel in the warmer days. Half-back pairing will take a little time to gel 100%. Once we've sorted that out, our attack will be as good as 2017, maybe. JSL, Jesse Sonny Lefeo would be incredible this season, possibly Man of Steel.
If he stops being a grub dropping knees on people on the floor.
Isn't JSL a Korean pop band?
No, it's a sofa company, isn't it? No, it's the cleaning people. It's the cleaning people on the infomercials, isn't
it? Craig, the ex-Pat Cass fan Malson, welcome back, says, I think we can push any team on our day, but don't quite have the class or depth to go toe-to-toe for 30-odd weeks. Top 6.
Daniel Ellis says, I think we should definitely be getting top. My gosh, hope is 3rd.
Denise Downham says, if we can keep fairly injury-free, then we will make the top 5.
Fat Boy Rob says, win every game.
Georgia says, to win the grand final, to get to the Challenge Cup final, for a member of the squad to get Man of Steel award, and for one of the younger players to win the Young Player of the Year award.
If he thought Anita was optimistic.
I was going to say, is Georgia friends with Rob by any chance?
Is Georgia Rob's weekend alter ego?
We'll find out at the double header, as it were.
And someone being a little bit more realistic. Helen Gappick says, less injuries, more consistency.
Michael Preston says they'll finish 3rd and be the grand final winners.
Mike Charlton said top 4, but need a few more players, mainly props.
Nick Oakley says, I think so long as Cass stay injury-free, we can compete. The likes of Shenton and Blair in the centres, alongside Fecky out wide, with an exciting partnership of Richardson and Truman leading the attack. We could expect some fireworks.
Paul Pincher says to reach the grand final and semi-final at least of the Challenge Cup.
Rob P expects a cup win, some journeyman signings, youth not given a chance by fans so won't get played, and fans will wonder why.
Simon Murray thinks they'll finish 4th, win the Challenge Cup, and get back to playing expansive, exciting rugby.
And Stephen Cock X says, if they stay relatively injury-free, would expect a top 3 finish with both half-backs gaining international recognition.
It's great to have some new names amongst some of the more familiar names on that list of people. Thanks for getting in touch, everyone. Alan, take us through Cass then a little bit. If you're there.
I'm here.
Take us through them then.
You can hear me, can't you?
Yeah.
No.
Go right there. Well, so I think for Cass, much depends on their ability or the ability of Richardson and Truman to play together and adjust as a new pairing. Richardson's still obviously relatively young. I think he's only 23, isn't he? Had a bit of a very strong start and a bit of a drop in his form potentially, but just obviously being on the outside of a particularly good team. For me, one of the biggest things when we're talking about pivots is how consistent McShane can actually be. I think he was rather inconsistent last year, and I think that affected the team ultimately. One question I had actually is, obviously they're quite young in the halfback, but are they actually getting quite old elsewhere? I think their first choice 17 is probably definitely top 5, but I think other people have mentioned how important injuries are actually going to be. For me, I think Truman is the star man. I think obviously Richardson he'll take a little bit of time to adjust to the team potentially. Rising star, as I said, they're a bit old in a lot of places, but I'm going to pick out Callum Turner only because I think he has shown flashes in the team before, and hopefully he might get the opportunity to actually cement a spot this year. Although they do have quite a lot of options at fullback, I would say.
So they finished 5th in the league last year and went through. And lost in the second round of the playoffs, the second week of the playoffs, should I say. The listeners have them finishing in 5th place this season. Alan, where do you have them finishing?
I had them 5th as well. I think they're just, it was a bit of a toss-up about who kind of finished out the playoffs, but I had them 5th.
I have them 7th. I think they're going to score tries. I'm not sure the defence this year will match. They feel more to me like the 2015-2016 cast side rather than the 2017 cast side with this squad, with new things having to fall into place. So I'm going 7th. Sarah?
I went 5th. I thought that they'll be sort of there or thereabouts, but not top-ish.
And Tim?
I think I went 5th.
You did. You did. For those wondering why he said it in such a way, I wrote the wrong number down on our preparation sheets for the show, but he did say 5th. We did clear it up before. I thought he might have written it down, but no, Tim's playing the illusion angle tonight. Did anyone have anyone different standing out as the star man or the rising star before we move on?
I mean, I think a lot will just depend on how the halfbacks click, as Al said.
I've picked Jax O'Neill out as the rising star, the young hooker. Partly Al picked on McShane and was he as consistent as he should be? He's definitely getting older now as well. I think playing someone else for spells at hooker might actually be a benefit for Cass, so I'm going Jax O'Neill as a rising star to look out for. Okay. Let's move on then. Let's head down to the south of France and talk about the Catalan Dragons. And Tim, you can get us started on these guys with the fan view that we got.
Yep, so the fan view comes from Alan Walker. And he says, Supercoach Steves steps back into the shadows to become the Mandelson figure as Remy takes over after we get shellacked in the first 4 matches. We don't lose another match all season. Bernie sends a big meat tray to all season ticketers as a celebration. Samkins breaks both leg in match 4, so Tony G flies back to save the day. Ulrich DaCosta is man of the season, but Maloney wins Man of Steel because people in Brexit can say it easier.
It's going to be an eventful round 4 for him, isn't it?
Yeah. Who have they got round 4? We need to.
We play them in that first 4, but I don't think we do.
No, we've got them mid-March, so it could be us. Let's find out. Well, whilst we're finding that out, do you want to take us through maybe what the listeners think, your thoughts, Tim, and where the listeners think they're going to finish too?
Yeah, so I think they've got some potential promise in there. They've got a decent chance that they've recruited well. We talked about James Maloney before. I think if he's comfortable there, if he fires early, then he could link up well. Obviously, we've got the definitely homesick Joel Tompkins, who's moved further away from his house. So
brother sick.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe he needs his brother to stick up for him, or defend his lunch money or something. So they've done well. I think some of the other recruitment's been quite sensible. Tom Davies doing well. When you look at the losses column, nothing apart from Gigo possibly. There's nothing there that you'd really cry about. Greg Bird, they've basically lost 5 penalties a game.
They've lost him for the 5 games that he isn't suspended or injured for, haven't they?
Exactly. and someone to play as a sort of non-passing halfback. The moral vacuum himself has gone. The world's fastest quantity surveyor. And Matty Smith. It's not some. There's no one in there you think, we're really sad about him, apart from possibly the leg of lamb, Tony Gigo. So whereas you look at the gaining column, they've got Tom Davis, Gavin Magritte, and Joel Tompkins and Josh Drinkwater coming back on more chance of drinking things other than water, and James Maloney, and that's quite a decent bit of quality on top of what they've got there already. So I think they could do, but I put them in 9th when I was doing the predictions, just because it's where the last card left on the dance floor was. But Mark, you went and you had them up as high as 4th.
Yeah, well, the listeners got them in 7th, and I think my 4th is maybe what's pulled them up to that on average. But I already picked Maloney as my man of steel. I think they're going to win more games than they lose this year. I think they're going to finish in the top 5, because I think they've got to get the shit together at some point, right? They keep putting these squads together that we think have got their shit together, and they don't necessarily do it. But I think they've finally hit on the right players to create the right type of culture to be a professional and winning outfit. So
basically, it's can they win away from home is the question, the eternal question, isn't it?
And can they all sort of play together? But I think Maloney's the star man. He's going to pull them together. That's for mine. I don't know. It's your team. It's your team to talk about, though, I suppose, Tim. So I don't know if you've got a different star man or rising star and that sort of stuff that you want to mention. Or before we do that, round 4, hilariously, is to be arranged, because they've got Saints in round 4 when Saints are playing the Roosters. So that game is up in the air for when it'll be played. So actually, Alan could be waiting until
really late.
the Challenge Cup final weekend or beyond for them to play that that round 4 game and lose Tompkins and super coach teams. But their 4th game is against Hull FC.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll take that then. We'll go for match 4 rather than round 4.
Sarah, Al, where do you have them then? Oh, Tim, you said 9th, didn't you? Sarah and Alan, where have you got them?
I'm 9th as well.
Yeah, I went 9th as well, partly for the same reason that Tim said, but I think, they've got better signings. The overall quality of the squad is better. I completely agree with you, Mark, about they should be able to get their stuff together, but all evidence tells you that they can't do it consistently, and I don't see why this year is going to be different to any other year. So, unfortunately, I've got them 9th.
Fair enough. Right, let's move on then. It's me with the Huddersfield Giants. We got 2 fan views in from the Huddersfield Giants. Paul Michael Craig, the Thunder from Down Under, he said, "More of the same, not good enough to be contenders, not bad enough to go down." And Rob said that he expects the Giants to surprise a lot of people. They've actually got some squad depth now with some quality players. He said, "I know the recruitment has been a bit dodgy in the past, but this time it actually seems like we've got some bigger names that have actually proven to be decent." And I suppose those bigger names are Aidan Caesar, who comes in fresh off a NRL Grand Final, and James Gavey, who is an international player. Kenny Edwards, of course, the moral vacuum, hoovered his way in. Actually, it sounds like he's on for a redemption story this year with the kind of interviews he's been doing and explaining a bit about his life before, and put some things into context for Kenny Edwards, so hopefully he can become that redemption story. And Ashton Golding, who unfortunately is going to miss the first month or so of the season, or